Yeah.
Ours aren't the
All
permanent
you guys
official
are
ones.
all.
No.
they have
Oh,
all
yeah,
this
you're-
stuff.
well, we all
You guys
know
all
that,
agree.
So if you should fall in the sea during the meeting.
If you should what, Dr. Klein?
If we should what?
Fall in the ocean.
Fall in the sea.
In the sea.
They're waterproof.
Sorry,
They're
we're clippers,
waterproof.
we're good. All right, let's call a meeting of the Falmouth Public Schools to order. Join me in the pledge to the flag. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So I remind everyone that this meeting is being telecast and recorded on Channel 14, and I remind any member of the public who wishes to make an audio or video recording of the open session of this meeting to first notify me as chair, and I will inform the public of the recording as required by the open meeting law. So, public comment, no one. I'm going to skip all that because there's no one here. So first on the agenda is the presentation of police substations located at East and North Falmouth Elementary Schools in the admin building. So this came from a little piece of information that Chief Dunn shared with us last week, and we're going to get a little bit more information.
Thank you.
So thank you, and I will make this brief. Chief Dunn and I started talking about the potential use of a couple of rooms in our buildings for police substations, although we never gave it a real title. And the issue is allowing police officers who are in different parts of town to use a room in our buildings simply to write reports. They are, and Chief Dunn, please correct me if I'm wrong, but the rooms will be used to write reports.
That's correct. I mean, we have laptops on our cruisers, but if anybody wants to, I give you a demonstration, sit in there and try to type a lengthy report, it really isn't. And the idea came about, and I'll take the two farthest parts of town, North Falmouth and Walcourt. My officers, if they're out there on an incident and they have to write a report, they drive all the way back to 750 Main Street. No sooner they get in there, sit down, start writing a report, they go back out to Walcourt, go back out to North Falmouth. That's travel time. Sometimes it's an emergency, and time is of the essence. So the idea came about, I don't have money to rent buildings. We don't have any other town buildings out in these areas. The schools just happen to be in our districts. We're in the schools every day anyways. So I reached out to the superintendent and asked her if there was just a closet. I just want a closet. I want to put a computer in there. The officers will come in, type the reports, print it, send it back. It'll get sent back to the station when they hit the print button, and they go back on patrol. If they sit down, for instance, let's say the East Falmouth School, start typing a report, they get a call, it cuts down on travel time, and it's going to give better community service. And it puts a police officer in the school when nobody knows he's going to be there, because there's no set time when he's going to go there. Same as when they do walkthroughs now. Our offices in the districts, other than the high school, because they have an SRO, are required during their shift to stop at the school and walk through the school. They do it every day. This is no different.
And a question has come up about having police officers as elementary SROs, and that is not the purpose or function for this project.
I was really just looking for a place to put a computer that they could write and not travel back to Main Street and have to do mock speeds to go out to other calls.
All right, Sharon, why isn't this working?
Oh, just hit return.
All right. So I mentioned that the conversations began last spring, and you have a copy of this in front of you. It might be difficult to read up on the screen. Questions came up about technology, and we reached out to both Michael Falcone from our IT department, and he spoke with the Public Safety
Rob.
IT department, and this is at no cost to the district. There's no rewiring or anything like that we have to do. And we already have officers in both Lawrence and at the high school on our service and on our server and able to access and do their work. As Chief Dunn said, we have resource officers and liaison officers in our buildings daily. This isn't going to look any different. Our liaison officers at the elementary schools participate in building-based safety team meetings, so again, they're part of the fabric of our schools. Police officers are in the administration building parking lot every night when I leave. It's a place that they go. So again, it's not unusual to see them here. I think it's important to know that on 2 occasions last winter, and I'm not sure I even shared this with the school committee, I had no access to the internet either at my home or at the admin building because of the weather, and I knew I was going to have to call school at some point, and I didn't really know how I could possibly do it, so I called Chief Dunn and said, hey, do you think you could just, I know you have internet, could you just give me a space for a couple of hours? And that happened on 2 different occasions. So it's not like it's unusual or really out of the ordinary for us to partner like this. Again, we meet with safety officers quarterly, Chief Dunn and Chief Small. And you know about the Shop with the Cop program and the Citizens Academy at the Morse Pond School. And I added those, again, only to reiterate that the officers are in our schools daily. This does not provide us with SROs at the elementary level at all. They are there to use our buildings and to be able to do their reports, and that's the primary focus of this. And so here are the spaces. And you can see that we're not taking away from kids. That was my biggest piece, and Chief Dunn and I talked about that a lot. He didn't want anything fancy. He wanted a place to sit, wanted to be able to hook up the computer and allow officers to write their reports. So there's nothing really fancy about the space, but I thought it was important to show it to you. And then we have access points at all of our buildings. We have outside key boxes that we've added for police access, as you know. We have Knox boxes for the fire department, but no one else but the fire department has access to those keys. And for drills and to get access into our buildings, we did add these boxes for the police department, and so they will be able to get in to our buildings. And so I want to reiterate that there are no additional costs to the Falmouth Public Schools, and our IT team and the public safety IT team are working together to make sure that the police have access. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Nancy?
I actually have a couple of questions, but I'm going to start with this just because there seems to be a clarification issue just with the SRO piece and then the officers who would be using these spaces. So my first question is, would the SROs use the space also within the schools that they...
Only if they're on regular patrol duty. Jamie is assigned to your schools. Her duties are the high school and the Lawrence School. However, during vacations, she's back working in the police department. During the summer, she works for the police department, and she could be assigned out to the east and have the same situation that she has to. But on a daily basis, no. She has computers in the high school, and she has a computer at the Lawrence School that she does basically the same thing that I'm looking to do in these other 2 schools.
So she has her own space to do that?
At the high school and the Lawrence School, she has offices in a space that she uses a computer.
Okay. And can I ask a follow-up to that? And just clarifying what the SRO role is, could you just clarify that for public?
The school resource officer is assigned, again, to only 2 schools in the town of Falmouth, the high school and the Lawrence School. And she is there, she or he, we've had he's before, they are there as a partnership with the school, number one, to protect the school, and also work with the staff and the students if there are any issues and things like that. But basically, it's a safety piece and an educational piece. And at one point in time, we did have 2 SROs, one at the high school and one at the Lawrence schools, but due to budget cuts, manpower, we had to cut down on one. And I think, as I said in the meeting, going back when Nancy was a principal and Joe Driscoll, my SROs were very bored because the schools were run really, really well by the administration. And basically crime was down, and any issues that law enforcement would have was down. So the decision was to cut back to 1, and it works very well because she divides her days between the Lawrence School, and she's always in touch. If they need her, she'll respond. And in any emergency, like I've said to all the schools, they just need to pick up the phone and call the police station, and we will respond. SRO does not respond to the other schools unless she is working.
And we do not have SROs in the elementary schools, nor are we looking for that.
And for the SRO, do they also do kind of some positive relationship building with the students as an aspect of, forming good relationship with you?
Absolutely, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
And the other piece is some of the things that we're doing on a daily basis is what it is to have that relationship with students, the younger students in the town of Falmouth. That's why we do the High Five Friday. That's why we do the walkthrough through the schools. Back when Newtown happened, that was one of the big cries, and I think from the school committee, if you were on the school committee, it was like, what about putting police officers in all the schools? Falmouth has a lot of schools. I don't have that many police officers. So the decision was, we'll just have officers pop in when they have the time to pop in, and nobody's going to know when they're going to do that. So that was the side piece, and I think it's been very, very positive. I've heard nothing but positive back from the staff, from the students. It's the norm to see a police officer walking through the school.
And the focus at the elementary schools is only around building positive relationships with kids.
Can I just ask one more follow-up with that? Do students, so in the elementary schools, are students told that police will be in the schools? Like, is that kind of part of, in their classroom when they're, so it's not like, it doesn't make the students think that something's wrong if the police are there. It's part of the community, teachers talk to them about it.
It's definitely part of the community. And I remember the first time we did high fives and how the buildings and the kids responded to the officers being there, whether it was through gifts or food or cards. It was something that the kids really relished. So when they see police officers, either a car, a cruiser in the parking lot, or a police officer in the building down in the cafeteria, it doesn't raise or heighten any sort of anxiety at this point, because they are part of the fabric.
Is that it? That's it, sorry.
Lord.
They are all
Andrea.
related, so I'm sorry. I
That's
just
fine.
monopolized there, I'm sorry.
That's a really quick question. I see that you've talked about IT and addressed all of that. Chief Dunn, you made a comment about printing things out, and I'm just wondering if there was a procedure in place to deal with privacy issues.
That will all go through the internet, and whatever the IT world is, there'll be no printer at the school. It'll print back at the police station. Similar to what our cruisers do right now. If we print something, we can print from our cruisers, but it ends up back at the station.
It's a great question, but nothing will be printed in the schools, so there can't be any mistake of leaving anything. It goes right back to the
And
station.
the other thing is the officer's not going to, if they have an individual they need to interview or anything like that, they'll go back to the police station. It'll be the police officer going in the school to type a report. It's not going to be bringing somebody with them, a witness or anything like that. It's going to only be the police officer.
Any other questions? So we don't need to vote on this, but we just wanted to have more information, and it was pretty clear at our last meeting that everybody was pretty supportive of it and wanted to make sure it was clear to the town that, and to FinCom, where your request is for the computers, that we want this. So as long as there's no objections, there doesn't seem to be any objections at all. So thank you so much for coming and sharing it with us more comprehensively.
And we're happy, and I'm certainly happy for the added security in our buildings.
It seems like a win for
It is,
town and kids. And
for sure.
I appreciate the support, I really
thank
do.
you so much for
Thank you.
coming back. 2
Thanks.
meetings in a row. Thanks, Chief. Okay. Next on our agenda is acting on the plaque for the Morse Pond Fitness Center that was donated by the road race. The grant was last spring.
And I do not have anyone here to speak to that directly, so I'm going to ask that you table that, and we'll bring it around at the next meeting.
Okay. Moving on, next are our school improvement plans from K-12. Who gets to go first? Dr. Dale, you're going first so you can run out and watch TV.
You try.
So for everyone that didn't get the notice, our NBC story is on probably right now.
Okay.
Thanks for coming.
Sure, no problem. With me, I brought Elijah Switzer, who is a fourth grade teacher, but I think he just scooted out to see if it was on right now. Elijah is in a master's program for education administration, is working on his principal's license, so he's working in his practicum, so he shadows me at some meetings and things. So, okay, so our school improvement plan has 4 goals, and I was asked to speak, briefly on this, so I will do that. The first goal is a goal that you saw last year, which is to continue to invest in all students through close monitoring of academic and social progress. That's a goal I think that needs to continue. The action steps have been tweaked, and I'm going to highlight just a few of the newer ones. One thing that we did this year that I will continue to do is before the students even arrived to the school, the teachers were all given a database of all their students in their classroom. And in that database, we had all the information we could possibly have regarding everything we knew about that child, both academic and social, behavioral, medical. You can see the different categories there. With that information, the teachers were able then to meet with last year's teacher. We embedded that in our staff meeting time prior to the students arriving. So the teachers have articulated to me that was really important for them to get to know the kids before they even walk through the door. So that is one way that we are investing in our kiddos. We've expanded the Connect program to include 3 teachers now. We've added a .5 school adjustment counselor, a behavior therapist, and we have 7 general educators who are working with us in addressing the students' needs. And we also have optimal common planning times available for everybody. So that is new for us this year with the expansion of that program. We are also, as you've heard many times now, we are partnering with McLean Hospital on our program development, case study, and consultation for students, and that is definitely a way we are investing in our students. And we are having, new this year, we're having teaching assistants attend staff meetings, and I believe that's true for all the schools, and I think it's a true indicator of a way to invest in kiddos. Get them in the conversation along with us. Goal 2 is to enrich the high-achieving students through a differentiated support system. And some newer action steps there is that this year, because we had teachers who received the professional development last year, we were able to create some small targeted groups of accelerated learners or motivated learners that really were able to then be available to the teacher that had that PD, and they were able to move forward with them. Each year we're rolling that PD out to newer teachers so that everybody will have the PD in a few years. We have at East Falmouth the computer science STEM building level team, which I mentioned last year. It's in year 2. It's one of 10 schools across the state that are working on cutting edge STEM curriculum, and the teachers are implementing their MCUs, the model curriculum units, and revising them at the state level, and embedding computational thinking with their units. So these units will be already taught and experienced at East Falmouth School and then rolled out to the state. We are outreaching to parents this year more as partners than just consumers, and that's new wording that we had heard over our principal's work week, and I think it's truly something that we should all be working on. And I've met with my parents during the Meet Your Teacher night and talked to them about what that means to me and how they can become more of a partner. So that's a real initiative in our school. Goal 3 is to enrich all through a variety of before and after school programs. Again, this is one that you saw last year, but we are just expanding it each year. This fall, we have 14 classes going on before and after school, the opportunity for 179 students to participate, and that's all funded through our PTO, so I'm very thankful for that and for the volunteers who really work hard to get this program off the ground. We have added the Nurturing Father Support Group through the Cape Cod Coalition to support families, and a real goal in our building is for the teachers and staff to reach out to families to get them more involved, not just in the school, but at the district level. So we're hoping to have a great showing at the VIPS volunteer elementary track meet, the Falmouth High School Science Fair, and the district's fine arts performances, really getting the families to go beyond the school. And then finally, goal 4 is more intense delineation of the work that's being done in our Connect program. And because of all the newness with the Connect program, that's taking quite a bit of time, and it's the job of not only the people who work in that program, but the partnership with the district and with McLean Hospital and our families to truly work together to build what we envision. So that is an important school goal, because it even goes beyond the Connect program to the general ed teachers and the specialists in the building. Any questions?
Questions for Dr. Dale? Andrea?
I had a quick one about the before and after school enrichment programs. Is that running parallel to the before and after care provided by the YMCA, or are they linked in some way?
They're not linked. Children can attend the enrichment activities, and then they can go in the afternoon back to Y if they needed to do that. Most parents that are signing up are just being able to pick up the children at 4:30 though.
Any other questions? I have a couple questions, but I don't know that they are specific to you because they're in all of them.
Okay.
But first let me say thank you to Zach and all of our principals for getting these to us, and Sharon for, I know, hounding everyone, because I really wanted to be able to, it's so much information, and to be able to really read it and digest all of it before having the chance to ask questions, I think is incredible. So my first question is, what is safety care? It's actually under the professional development in all of them, and I don't know what it is.
Well, safety care is a program that we train our staff that might have to help with de-escalation of students with the certain behaviors.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we used to have
I know what that is.
CPI, used to be called CPI.
Okay, thank you. And then I had another question about, so in the high achieving students, through differentiated instruction, you mentioned that there's small targeted groups, and I'm wondering if that is going to be an ongoing thing, or if it was just to test this year because not everyone was trained.
Right, so next year, so at East Falmouth, I can speak to our school, each grade level, we have approximately 3 sections. So last year, we had 1 teacher trained. This year, we're working on teacher number 2. And so with a teacher that was trained, we put a cluster of really, really accelerated kiddos there, and still heterogeneously balanced all 3 sections. So it would roll out so that next year, it could be 2 clusters with 2 teachers, and the following year, 3 clusters with 3 teachers.
Okay, because I've actually had this question asked of me a number of times this year, not before this year, but this year in particular, about whether or not there are clusters in the classrooms where teachers have had specific training. So is that a plan to roll out on a continuing basis? This is not just
Yes.
a one-off.
I think I'd ask Zach to speak to that.
Yeah, in the presentations and with the training, the trainer works with the teachers to understand the benefits of grouping some of these students together. It provides opportunities for them to work with students who might be at their own level. And these aren't necessarily what you'd correlate to like AP courses in high school. These are kids who have different skills and different areas of achievement or interest or engagement, or there are lots of different ways to describe who these kids are without thinking that they're necessarily the top in the class, if that's how you want to put it. But there are benefits to grouping these students together versus spreading them out across the board, which I'd be happy to talk more about.
And so that's sort of the plan, is to do that. All right, that's amazing, because that's so timely that question came up the same year that people have been asking me about it. Any other? Yeah, please.
Question. Reflex Math.
Yes.
What is it, and is it something that we need in addition to Math in Focus?
So Reflex Math is just another math resource. We've had it in our district for a great length of time. It's just a computational math fact fluency program that you can do at the computer at home or at school. And over the years, we saw that children that actually had access to it were getting their computational facts quicker. What I wanted to do, though, is I was seeing disparity in the data of usage and just I didn't know what the impact it was making for the amount of money we were paying for it, or I was, through my operating budget. So we did a webinar this fall, the staff did, and we realized that the children needed to get, what we call it, the green light. They needed to get to the green light 3 times a week to show the results that are promised. And so now we're doing that, making sure that they have the opportunity to do just that. So then my hope is that that is the resource for math fact fluency. We have other resources that we use as well, but that's just one. And the webinar this fall, teachers came away from it feeling like, oh, well, now that's probably going to make more of a difference. We have to give them access to be able to get to the green light 3 times a week.
Okay. And are other elementary schools using that program?
Yeah,
too?
I believe so. Yeah.
Is it extra math or something?
I know Morse Pond uses extra math or something.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions? Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
coming.
Thank
Can't wait to
you.
hear the update at the end of the year.
Thank you.
So Melissa will be here though. Yeah, but not Megan.
Oh, no. Thanks for coming, Ms. Ashworth.
Thank you. Thank you all for your support for Mullen Hall School. I appreciate everyone's efforts in working to make sure education is really a high priority in the town of Falmouth. And before I start, I want to recognize Rose Moran. She's the assistant principal. She doesn't want to sit here. I've invited her, so. But I just need to say thank you. Her support, her energy, and her commitment is just exceptional and very much appreciated. So number 1. Are we good to go?
We have to go back.
Okay.
I should have greeted you with, hooray, you're here.
Yes, yes.
I would prefer if you say, raise your hand if you're here.
Raise your hand if you're here.
They do that at
Great.
Mullen, and I love that.
While Sharon's updating this, I did give you an update. There's just a few word changes in here, and on page 2, you'll note that there's a new member to our school council as well.
So is the highlight just the changes?
Yeah, page
Oh,
2,
thank you very much.
page 2, 7, and 9, there, I just wanted them to come to your attention. So our goal number 1 is that we will be implementing PBIS, Positive Behavioral Intervention Supports. Again, speaking to Mrs. Moran's work and Mrs. Iandoli's work, our special ed building administrator, we're working on Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3 plans for our students. The goal itself doesn't sound real smart in terms of measurability, but I think when you get to the action plans is where I'll be able to report out to you in the spring. Our intended outcomes is that we will be able to look at our clinical tracker data and summarize the outcomes, and specifically reporting out on a reduction in incident reports, behavioral reporting, safety care intervention, and suspensions. A number of action steps are really solution-based and, have a positive tone to them. Effective effort lunches, and we have created and posted signs throughout the building and met with students to talk about expected behaviors. Mrs. Moran has even made a video of students getting on the bus and off the bus with expected behavior, and that was shown at our community meeting. The kids loved being in the center of the spotlight, if you will. We're working with the high school to offer structured recess opportunities, perhaps as a senior projects, having high school students come down to play with kids during recess. The creation of a reflection room is helping students process following maybe having made a mistake or if there's been an incident. And we've really separated our offices from the reflection room. Students are welcome to come to the office to celebrate, to read, share a poem, but if you need to come for problem solving, we have a designated space for that. We're trying to acknowledge expected behavior all the times. So we use brag tags, and weekly we're announcing the best of, if you will, in terms of the areas where we're implementing PBIS. The hallways, the cafeteria, the bus, recess, and also being a good audience and having those good audience skills. We're participating in McLean professional development. We have a couple of interns, social work interns, and they're going to be scheduled to go around and read growth mindset books to classrooms. And then you can see some other strategies that will be in classrooms, and every class has extra recess, which I believe contributes to students' readiness and eagerness to learn. So. Goal 2, we are sticking with our focus on attendance. We had a real positive response, and I think our action steps are largely relational. Things like postcards. There she is. Thank you, Rose. Thank you, Rose.
Sharon told me to do it.
Thank you, Sharon. So sticking with a focus on attendance, and I think our action steps will be something that I can report out to you on. Hooray, you're here. We have banners throughout the building. Raise your hand if you're here. Everybody can do that when you walk into a classroom. And we have a lot of visual motivators around the school, recognizing and acknowledging success. Just Monday, I sent a Connect Ed to 233 students acknowledging their perfect attendance for September. I think between Rose and I, we have sent close to 100 postcards to students, just acknowledging something. You know, it was great to eat lunch with you, or thank you for, you know, letting me sit in on your math game. So connecting with kids. We're also meeting, you know, using the district attorney's office, and I have a pre-CRA meeting at the end of the month with the district attorney in the Falmouth Resource Center. So we're, you know, really using our resources and focusing on the best resource, if you will, to help families. Class lists were given to teachers so that they can understand the need for targeted attention and monitoring of attendance. And we have our STEM-based learning opportunities on our early release days. We noted that those were days of lower attendance than other days, so we're trying to hook them with engagement on those days. And we made another video this year to send to students to welcome them back. So those are some of our action steps. And then we also have our silly attend dance that Mrs. Moran and I perform to classrooms who have 100% attendance. Goal number 3. Parent-family engagement. Again, the goal doesn't sound smart in terms of measurement, but I will report out on our action steps. I am asking teachers to work proportionally in parents maybe who are not engaged, or we really want to find a connection. So we're focusing on our high needs and our subgroup cohorts to really make sure that we're connecting with families and that they feel a partnership. And the connections need to come in multiple forms. You don't send an email and say, I tried. We need to meet them in the parent pickup line. We need to be, you know, phoning. We need to just try many, many ways. So multiple forms has kind of been a buzzword that I feel I've been using a lot. In our action steps, we really want to focus on recognizing the value and the value of the partnership with families, and be solution-based and respond promptly and carefully. We are looking at developing a laundry center at Mullen Hall as a way to get parents into school. And speaking with a few parents recently, the cost of laundry, the amount of time it takes for them to sit in a laundromat with 2, maybe 3 children, I don't know, it spoke to me. So we're thinking of developing the laundry center. I already have a washer-dryer donated. A small committee of 5 teachers are willing to help me with this. Our first meeting is tomorrow. So we're looking at things such as the ancillary supports. How do we schedule it? What happens if there's a repair? When parents and families come, do they want to volunteer, eat lunch with their child? They're in the school, maybe they want to be involved. If they don't want to go into a classroom, then, you know, maybe a reading specialist, or I can go down, just connecting with families to make them feel welcome. We have families with us for 5 years, and we need to connect with them and hope that they feel that public education cares about them and that their kids will do well. Through a generous donation, we're starting a weekend food backpack program. Let's see, families attend occasionally IST meetings, instructional support teams, and very personalized connections. And one of the expectations that I've asked teachers to give to parents is the rationale for their homework. Why is this important? And I've polled all the teachers about their homework and also about healthy celebrations and food. And I'm appreciating the shift that I'm seeing and the understanding about these two important issues. Again, I talked about multiple forms and ConnectEd phone calls to students. Last year, grade 1 put on a Chinese New Year's parade, and I can hit grade 1 and say, thank you for your fabulous parade. So connecting all the time to make sure that kids know that we recognize them and acknowledge them. So.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Any questions for Nancy? Walter?
I just wanted to compliment you on your recognition of effort. As a former business manager, teacher, and athletic coach, effort is 90% of what it takes to achieve success. So the fact that you recognize that, I think that gets the right message across to the students.
6-year-olds can talk about perseverance. They are talking about perseverance. So, right. Thank you. Thank you.
I would always say I'm going to judge you. If I had physical education, I said I'm going to judge you based on effort.
Right.
That's going to be the primary focus of your grade, and that made people put on 100% effort. So
thank you.
I compliment you for recognizing that, and I hope that sends a message to all your students.
Thank you.
Andrea?
Mine's just a comment as well. I noticed that there was some action steps specifically related to the playground and putting the shelves out there and going through procedures for dealing with the thing. That is amazing, and I think it shows that level of detail of saying we respect everything that we're doing. We respect our belongings, we respect each other, and it just adds a little something to that I'm very impressed. Thanks for doing that.
Lost and Found is looking a little empty. And again, I bring attention to Rose Moran's support and initiating that.
It's great.
I had the exact same thing circled on my list.
Isn't that funny?
I'm
Yeah.
so
Shelves.
excited about
Yeah.
it. And it's not just about the responsibility that kids take for caring for themselves and their belongings and the aggravation with kids coming home without their lunchbox, but no, that's a town playground too. And when you show up there and there's stuff strewn all over, you know, it's just, it gives a different feel. And it's you know, it's school, but it's town too. So anyway, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I want to compliment you, Nancy, on the language that you use around learning and around children, and it just it kind of exudes within the building, and I know this is an attestament to all of your staff too, but I really noticed how positive it is, and just in you, I think this is a perfect example of you making your office an area of celebration, and that, you know, for reflection, and it's a different space, and I think that's really great. So I appreciate it, and Thomas appreciates getting those phone calls and being acknowledged for his perfect attendance, and hopefully he got to see the attendance. I don't know.
John?
Just a comment as well about the reaching out multiple ways. I think the exciting thing about that is you want to connect with people. And like you said, I mean, someone could say, oh, I tried. But I think it's really that passion for really, truly wanting to connect rather than just doing busy work of we did this and checking off a box. I think that's huge. I know actually being a parent of my child moving on to Morse Pond, the transition efforts that you do in that regard is very cool. And then having a good friend of mine whose son is attending Mullen Hall, just starting out, to see sort of the beginning to the end and graduation, if you will, in the same moment or the same semester, if you will, is really truly outstanding. And thank you for your efforts.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I just wanted to say something to all the principals about the attendance thing, and you look at the chart and say, oh no, we're not, you know, maybe we're worse than the state, or the numbers and everything, and it must be so frustrating to have to work on that when it isn't always in your purview to get the kids there. So, you know, kudos to all you principals that have to work so hard on that, I mean, with the parents, so. Did I say that right?
Yeah, no, I agree. Bill?
One question is, PBIS, is that a mandated state program?
Through ESSA, there's recommendations such as our team program, Reaching the High Achievers, that was included in that, and also, a focus on social emotional learning and understanding children and their need for structure and regulation and positive feedback.
Yes, and I think at the elementary level, I think it just can be outstanding.
Right.
Great. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
coming. Can't wait to hear how you progress on all of those then. Who's next?
I love the idea of a laundry room.
Yeah. It is crazy expensive to do laundry.
It's been out there for a while, but it gets in the way at times of students going to school.
Well, and
And so the fact that we're addressing it at an elementary school, I think is very commendable.
And an opportunity for students to learn a life skill.
Absolutely.
For sure. How are you?
Good evening.
Thanks
I'm
for joining
fine.
us.
Thank you for having us. So this evening, I'd like to talk to you about our T-Ticket Elementary School goals. And goal number 1, as you've seen in the other goals, other schools' goals, ours is to continually monitor the attendance of all students and target chronically absent students in an effort to determine appropriate interventions that will raise attendance. And our focus in doing this is that children learn more when they attend school regularly. Attendance is a key factor in student success. If they're not in school, then we can't possibly teach them. Our action steps continue to be as they have been, but one focus this year is that our staff members are developing stronger relationships with our students and letting them know that they noticed that they're in school, and when they're absent, that we miss them. So our nurse this year is also making an effort to reach out to the families on our behalf, and we're taking note. We have our meetings, we call it our GAB meetings. It's called Guidance and Administrative Briefing, so that we can keep track of attendance, and that's when our letters, so that when you see that we're sending out letters, we document the attendance and we track them. Letters go out at certain intervals to notify the parents that we notice. I make calls, the nurse make calls, so that we can encourage and make a plan, invite parents in to make a plan with us, because we find that partnering, as you've heard in the past, with the parents is much more successful than trying to do it alone. Our second goal is that we have collaborative teams of teachers will monitor and take responsibility for student growth with a focus on the continuum of instruction, intervention, and monitoring. Now, it may look as though we have abandoned our previous goal, but progress monitoring is an essential component of the RTI process, and previously we had in there the RTI process, so we're following up on our prior goal. And you'll notice that our action steps are the same, and we've added the McLean Hospital partnership. And we also noticed that with the professional development that the K through 6 teachers had on Friday with Dr. Pfeiffer, that it dovetailed perfectly with McLean, because McLean talked to us about the auditory pruning of the now I'm going to forget, the synapses in the brain as the children are learning about reading, the development of reading. And McLean had talked to us about the same thing, and there was some great discussions today with all of the teachers about how the two programs just went together perfectly. And when you have that kind of discussion taking place, so perfect going together, where the two are just making for dynamic conversations. So it's great, and it's coming back into the classrooms for the teachers to use with the children and to think about the reading development of the children and the problems that they're seeing with the children. And then as we come together in the monitoring process, If they're not seeing the skills developing as they would expect, then they're talking to the reading specialists, coming before the IST team, we're talking about the interventions that we could use, and taking it to the next step. So it's been powerful, and it can only get better this year. And then Goal 3, we hope to ensure that the T-Tech Elementary School has a strong and healthy school culture that promotes a sense of participation, wellness, and safety for all students so that they develop the social, emotional, and physical well-being competencies. Oops, sorry. Thank you. That will enable them to be self-aware, have interpersonal skills to self-manage, and to make responsible decisions. And under this, we continue to hold morning meetings that welcome and support a strong, healthy school culture. So every classroom holds a morning meeting where students greet each other and their teachers, and they greet them by name. Establish and find ways to continue before and after school enrichment programs. So this is the first time we've had our Reflex and Prodigy Math programs to develop and strengthen the math skills of our students, but we've also added this year some no-cost programs, after-school and before-school programs, for example, like cooking, running, sewing, things like that for our students, and this is the first year we've been able to do that. And we're also exploring a partnership with our PTO for other enrichment programs that would provide us to provide stipends. Develop strong, healthy student, family, and teacher relationships, which you saw earlier. Monitor student attendance and let students know we miss them when they are absent. So that's a thread that's going through everything. And then the next one, and I apologize, ends in and I'll finish that for you. Post the pictures of all of our students in the gym at the mid-year point and have the staff put a check mark for each thing they know about the child. For example, as all of our children's pictures are posted, if you know the first name, you put 1 check mark. If you can tell the child's last name, you put 2 check marks. If you know a sibling, if you know, let's say they have a brother, you can put a 3rd check mark. If they have 2 brothers, you can put another one, or a sister, you put another one. If you know they have a pet and you can name the pet, you can put 2 check marks. Or if you know family names or whatever you know about them, the more you know, the more check marks you can put. When we're done, so all of the staff members go around, and when we're done, we tally the check marks, and the students who have the fewer check marks, we realize we need to develop stronger relationships with them, and those are the students that we target for us to get more information on and really reach out to make stronger commitments for relationships with. And then the social functions for students and families held by the school and the PTO. We have more functions planned with our PTO and the school than we have had in the past.
I'm still thinking about the photo thing, I'm sorry.
Okay.
That's really an amazing, so that's just for staff? The students are not?
No, the students will not
That
be
is just
involved. Only for the staff at
That
the
is
mid-year
an
point,
amazing
so that we'll have a chance then to see where we are in our relationship building, because that's a strong goal that we have for this year. And at the mid-year point, it still gives us time to really reach out to those students. And
That's such an awesome idea. Are there any questions? Yeah.
Just a follow-up to that. I love this idea. And are there specific questions that are asked for the?
No, we're going to put every single student's picture up because we have the little ones that Life Touch provides for us, the little sticky ones. And we're just going up if you can name the child. So if you knew that child's name was Deb, then if you know it was Pinson's, you get 2 check marks. And if you know that I have a dog named Misty, you can put a 3rd check mark. So each thing you know about that child, but if you didn't know my last name or that I had anything else related to me, you can only put 1 check mark. Or maybe you didn't even know my first name, then you can't put any check marks.
Okay.
And you have to go to the next child. So at the end, we tally, and some children might have 100 check marks, but another child might only have 15. So the children who have the fewer check marks, we know we need to have a stronger, build stronger relationships with
So it
them.
could be any fact that you know about the child.
Any fact you know.
Can I ask a follow-up question for this? The enrichment programs, there's no cost? Is that
No
what-
cost to the children.
So all of the students
Are free.
are free? Wow, and that's provided by the PTO?
Nope, we have a running program, and it's a volunteer. One of our nurses is putting it on, and she's just volunteering to do it.
Okay.
And we have a grant that, it's a cooking program, and it's by a collaborative who is putting that on, and we have volunteers doing that. We have gardening. One of our teachers received a grant, and she's doing a sewing program. So it's a lot of different programs, but it's funded in different ways, and there's no cost to the kids.
Wow, that's great, thank you.
Any other questions? Andrew? To follow up on that, I think it's similar to my question earlier too. I'm just trying to get a sense of how that dovetails then with the before and after care. Like in terms of students making choices, I mean, this is free. So, you know, are the kids that are in, you know, just there for care, are they having access to those enrichment activities or?
Yes. So the programs don't start at 7 a.m. So if they're the before program, they have to have the parent's permission. The parent had to sign the permission form, and they can leave the before program to go to the before school programs. Or if they're in the after school program and the parents are picking, if the parents can pick up at 4:30, then the parents can pick up at that time. But if the parents are coming out, let's say at 5 o'clock, then at 4:30 when the program ends, the child would go to the after-school care until the parent picks them up.
So then it's solely based on interest. So as long as they're interested in one of the other programs, they have access.
Right. They're not barred from either one.
Any other questions? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Last but not least. Sharon doesn't want to get up. Thanks for joining us.
That might be the last thing I do correctly tonight, is that I get the button. I can do that. So thank you and good evening. So we have our school improvement plan for this year for North Falmouth. By and large, I kind of view this school improvement plan as a continuation of last year's. A lot of what we started working on last year was really kind of a 2 to 3 year goal in mind to really see it to completion. So the first goal we have is, again, it's a continuation of a curriculum guide project that we started last year, where we started to document each grade level's major topics they tackle per month, just for my own interest and for teachers' clarity, and so we're all on the same page, essentially. The change in practice for this year is that we're focusing on assessment. So what are the best practices we're putting in place right now to assess what students know? And so as I included in the goal, kind of the essential question around here is, how does the teacher know what students know? So when you're tackling these topics, how do you accurately know that they've mastered them? So I want to capture those in a shared document that we'll have for posterity of what we're using that works for assessment. Following a similar timeline to last year, it's kind of looking at 2 halves. So we'll use the common planning time structure we have in place, where I now meet every other week with the grade level teams to review what assessments we're using, kind of, and then recap at the mid-year point, and at the end of the year, really, I'll put it all together over the summer, essentially, is what I did with this past curriculum topic guide phase, and then I'll do the same for the assessment, just to see what it all collectively looks like. And then we have a point of reference when we talk together about making improvements on our instructional practices going forward. So, and with some other initiatives going on at the district level that are really exciting with the district's literacy team, that'll inform some of this process too. Goal 2. This is to continue to support the increase in growth of our high-needs students, and I'm anxiously awaiting the data from the state on MCAS to see if the trend continued, because we had a really, I think, encouraging trend of improvement for our high-needs students from the previous administration of this assessment, and then I'm hoping that that continues. And if it doesn't, either way, it's going to inform our conversation about how we support these students. Sort of the change of practice in this goal that will be new for this year was the partnership the district's entered into with McLean Hospital, in that we're able to, I think, affect greater support for our students around social and emotional and mental health issues that may underlie why they may not be making progress. And I think I'm missing one little piece here. Goal 3. And this is our, goal 3 is similar to what you've seen from some of the other schools around targeting chronically absent students. I was encouraged by our school's data for this year about how we compare to the state in terms of the number of chronically absent students we have. What I'd like to change this year is the amount of involvement we have from classroom teachers and support staff at some of our attendance meetings, whether they include parents or not, that we involve, I think, a larger audience at this point, and increase our outreach efforts to families around attendance. I think we had some good results last year in a couple of cases where we had parents in, sometimes related service folks that are involved in their lives outside of school and having some great conversations, involving pediatricians even in some of those conversations. And I want to increase that because of the effect we had in those few instances that I think that can be expanded. So I'm hopeful that we'll continue to make improvements with the attendance rate overall and for the students who are chronically absent. And I think I got cut off. I have a 4th goal.
We have it.
You have it? Karen. There's no slide, but our 4th...
All right, we all have it.
The 4th goal is centered on something we restarted last year after a lengthy absence, was the safety committee at the school. And last year we focused on kind of working as a committee, identifying safety concerns for the building, whether they were physical plant issues or otherwise. And we're really happy to have had participation from our school liaison officers. I think they were a major part of how successful the committee was last year, and they're going to continue to be part of the safety committee again this year. And once again, we have participants from across the school, teacher assistants, teachers, cafeteria staff, our school custodian, teachers, office staff. Everyone's really involved in this. And the change in practice on this goal this year would be that I think we're going to really hone in on 2 areas, and those are our evacuation plan and then our medical response team and how we coordinate those 2 efforts, and doing some tabletop exercises and running through those procedures as a committee to see, are they clear? Do they make sense? Do we think they'll actually work if we need them? And also kind of coming out of the conference room this year with this committee and taking a field trip to our evacuation site and seeing, do we think this will actually work? Let's go over there and see the space. Let's run through what it would look like to actually use that procedure. And the same for the medical response team, that we go through a hypothetical situation and play it out. And how does it actually work? And do we discover any issues with our policy that we need to improve? So it's really kind of taking us out of the boardroom and honing in on a couple of practices that I think we've never really explored in length before, and that we will now.
Thank you.
Well,
Questions from Mr. Adams? Leah?
In the safety committee, do you have emergency response personnel also involved in that? Are there policemen or?
the 2 school liaison officers are part of the school safety committee.
Okay.
And they come to every meeting, or as many as they can. But I'd love to reach out to see if, through them, we might be able to get some members of the other parts of the service departments in town involved.
Any other questions? You got off easy.
All right, quick and easy. Great. Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you so much.
All right,
Thanks
thank
for
you.
coming. I just so love these. I feel like the improvement plans are so thoughtful. So thank you for all of your hard work. And Zach, all your hard work. We don't have to vote on them, we just hear them. And then we get to hear how everybody did it at the end of the year. Next on our agenda is routine business. The minutes from September the 26th. Is there a motion to accept the minutes from September the 26th?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes from September 26,
Thanks, Leah.
2017.
Thank you. Any comments or discussion on them? All in favor of approving the minutes from the 26th?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, unanimous, thank you. Report from our superintendent.
So if you take a look at my briefing, I actually worked with Patrick on this because we had Chief Dunn to give you an update on safety and security a couple of weeks, and I think it was one meeting ago. And I just wanted to follow up with what the district has been doing. in terms of safety and security. And I just highlighted the two things I spoke to them in with the presentation earlier, the new boxes for police access, and then the development of the substations at the 3 buildings. In addition, I just want to call out 2 things. On October 4th, I attended a meeting of the school adjustment counselors. It was a district-wide meeting. I think they get together quarterly. Perhaps. And I asked Mr. Jodwin if I could speak directly to the adjustment counselors, because I've been meeting, I've had an opportunity to meet with a few of them over the past month and a half, and I started to hear some real concerns that I wanted to bring back to the group and hear a little bit more about really the work on the ground of the school adjustment counselors. I followed that up with a survey, because I wanted to get some hard data around what it is that they're seeing with our kids and how it's impacting families, but also how it's impacting the work of our school adjustment counselors. So I'll be bringing that back to you throughout the budget season, as it may impact our budget and what I may be requesting. But that was an eye-opening meeting, and I really appreciated their feedback. Another thing I'd just like to call out quickly is October 3rd, the FEF Showcase, and I got there a little bit late because we had an evaluation subcommittee meeting, but I have to tell you, the projects presented by Ryan Weber, Michelle Duguay-Martinez, and Ann Andrade, who are speech language and OT, were just amazing and so innovative and so offered so much to be proud of the work that's going on in the district. And we had 2 very young teachers from the T-Ticket School who received grants, and their focus was on reading. And it was Kim Bamba, who's a student of mine many years ago, and Diana Clark. And it was just amazing, because they're really young and really excited, and what a great job they did. So thank you to the FEF, and also thank you to educators in this district who take advantage of it to do really incredible things for our kids.
Thank you. Questions for Nancy? All right, moving right along. Sonia, would you like to highlight anything from your report?
I'd be happy to answer questions. I didn't put on here, but the photo credits go to Zach at the mentoring induction. He had his phone at the ready. And you can see one of our assistant principals from the high school, Henry St. Julian. This is his first experience talking about cultural proficiency with our teachers, and it's something that we're looking to dig into a little bit more deeply with Henry and Henry's experience moving forward. But I'll be happy to answer any other questions you may have.
Oh, wow, lots of hands. Andrea.
Excellent. I was just wondering if you could explain a little bit more about the after-school mentoring program, what it is, who typically attends that, the turnout for that, et cetera.
So our mentoring program is for both teachers and administrators. Typically, the great majority of our participating teachers and administrators are in their first year of practice in their role. But we do have 3 levels for teachers and counselors and other providers, and then for administrators. So the most intensive level is level 1, so their first year of practice. They have a entry-level license, up to level 3, which may simply be that they've either changed roles or they've come from another district, and we're just helping them get acclimated to the professional role in Falmouth Public Schools. So we do that to fulfill both the regulation, but because it's best practice for colleagues, because we want to really help them acclimate quickly, acclimate well, and stay with us.
That's great, and it just seemed like this was such a great topic that would be something that we want to keep that discussion going for all staff.
Leah.
Going with that, could you define cultural proficiency for us so we know what that is about?
Sure. So we're looking at the combination knowledge, skills, beliefs, the principles around building a collaborative and interactive environment where people may bring differing opinions or beliefs to the table. Mm-hmm. So these sessions run 45 minutes, and there's 3 of them that run back to back to back with like 0 transition time. So Henry ran the same workshop 3 times in about a 2.5 hour give or take period. But what he was trying to work with first was just having people put a little bit of their identities out on the table and to really have them dig in and talk about who they are and to realize the differences that they all have. But then he concluded that part of the workshop by then saying, look at all the commonalities you've shared, but how the commonalities you share as educators makes you different from your students. And then he used that to springboard into conversations about how that difference just generationally affects our planning and our response to what students present. So it was just one way for us to get started in the conversation. But we had to ask him to take probably about a 100-slide presentation and pare it down to about his top 15 slides. So he's got a lot more that he wants to say. So we're looking for him to continue the conversation.
And will he get the opportunity to work with other staff around that
Yes.
too? Okay.
Yes. So we have some plans. They're just not fully articulated yet.
Okay. So cultural proficiency, cultural competency, similar?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
The same?
He's walking through the pre-competency,
Okay.
what people bring to the table and
Figure out
helping
who
them.
you are. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
step away from language that may be negative to build positive and then move forward in how you embrace that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how often does he do this program?
So this is the first time that we reached out to Henry to do this, and so there are 2 face-to-face meetings embedded in the mentoring and induction experience, and then 2 online experiences. So we've talked to him about helping us with the program this year, but then we have some broader plans that we want to work with Henry on being able to realize for more educators, both maybe to bring our new hires forward into an additional experience with him, as well as to bring others into the conversation.
Okay.
John?
Just,
Great for mentoring.
just for the sake of brainstorming, just to put something out there that it seems an appropriate time for this. I had participated a number of years in the Whole World Celebration, which was an event that they hold in Boston with different people with different cultures presenting either a lot of it's food oriented, but also dance, things of that nature, art. Maybe that might be something good for both, like a collective of both student and faculty to have, like at the high school auditorium or something, just like the Whole World Celebration of if individuals presenting something about their culture and then having like a celebration of that. It might be pretty cool.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Sonia? Thank you.
Thank you.
Zach? We already had all yours. I just want to make sure there wasn't something else in there that I missed.
I just
Oh, sorry.
thank Zach for
Yeah.
helping and assisting the principals at the elementary level to put their school improvement plans together. I think it's a lot of work. I think you created a great template and worked with principals, and you really saw what our elementary principals are doing in their buildings. And I think you've done a really great job.
Yeah, there's a-
Absolutely.
You give a lot of detail in the action steps,
Yeah.
and that's important. Thank you.
And yet the presentations were very concise and fast.
And awesome.
Yeah,
And
that's
it's
great.
done by early October.
Yes.
They haven't had much time to do that, so.
That's a really
true.
good point.
That's true. You're right.
It's a very good point, and they had a very tight schedule, and they knew they had to get everything done and to you ahead of time for you to look at.
But to that end, they're, like Tim Adams was saying, it's a continuation of last year, and I think, I apologize for being late, and I know that I missed a few, but they're continuing their goals while merging new ones in as well. So I appreciate the merger and the detail with the updates in it.
Yeah, and I think it speaks volumes for people to say, well, I didn't finish that, so I'm gonna,
Yeah.
and not just to say, oh no, moving on to the next thing.
Right.
Like it's extra difficult to recognize that the job is not done, and we're just gonna keep at it.
But our job isn't done.
It's never done.
rolling.
No, it's not.
So anyway.
And fluid.
Yeah, not to go on at length after you already complimented, but thanks, Zach. Charlie?
No, I think it's good. It's all there.
It's great.
Fresh Market Thursday, first one of the
First
season.
one, are you gonna
T-ticket.
call us all?
Already recorded. 6 o'clock tomorrow. I get to say French words too, so.
Oh.
And I highly
Speaking French this week.
Ah.
Sarah's gonna,
I should not have warned her.
she's definitely gonna
Not a
answer.
good idea.
I highly suggest people going and seeing. If you haven't been to a Fresh Market, it's a great experience. And I like that there's some more diversity around
Yeah.
the schools.
Yeah.
And it really is a great program.
It's growing and expanding.
I love Fresh Market. The kids love Fresh Market. They love learning new things.
I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. They love learning new things. They love coming home and doing the recipes at home. It's very easy. It's very user-friendly. It makes it really easy for dinner for working parents.
I say I find it comforting your calls too, your melodic voice. Some people have said that's the one thing they missed in the summertime. You should do something.
Charlie didn't call us enough.
Charles Jodwin checking in to see how your July is going.
It's very calming.
Oh my goodness, any other questions?
I actually have
Go ahead,
another
Leah.
comment. I really appreciate all of the flu clinics. Have there always been this many?
No.
No.
I feel like this makes it really accessible to families and to...
Yes, for the past few years, we were doing it through a different vendor, so to speak, and they were unable to accommodate us in each school.
Okay.
And we saw the numbers go down because of that. And so we were able to, this year, provide one in each building.
It's just
If you remember though, Leah, if you
Yeah.
think about it years past, it has come up that we didn't have enough, so incrementally we have been able to increase them because we couldn't meet the needs of all families based on time and availability.
Yeah.
And that was a concern.
And it would be nice to see whether or not we improve attendance if kids don't get the flu.
Well, this is about staff, right? So this is staff and family.
Oh, right,
members,
this
so it's
is
different.
staff.
But I mean,
But
staff,
they're all on the same
staff
page.
is so critical in
yeah.
this piece.
Yeah.
So it's
True.
and then so many of the staff have kids who are in the schools too.
Yep.
So, but I know as having that accessible as a teacher is super important. So.
Any other?
Yes, do we have a designated time for the college fair at the high school? I'm just curious.
Oh, yes. 11:15 to 12:30.
Thank you.
And I say that because it backs up to an AC meeting. That's how I'm remembering it.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Any other questions? All right, Cindy, anything you'd like to highlight?
She's
not here.
She's not here. Cindy had a family issue.
I'm so,
I did have something on Cindy's
wanna-
discussion points.
you want to register it and then we'll
Yeah,
try and get an
well,
answer?
just as a thought, because the topic, the notion of some fees and whatnot it will come up a little bit later, but I want to do the potential for the YouTube. I see that we have a YouTube account now, a business account. Possibility that we might be able to do, I know we're removing the advertising from there with the way the account's set up, but the potential of maybe having ads on there, or whether local businesses wanted to advertise on there as a way to be a revenue generator. I don't know if we want to go that direction and, keep it, not have any ads in general, but if we had specific Falmouth-oriented ads, particularly if the subject matter was of a nature of what the video was that tied in somehow. Like, for example, if somebody donated a field or something, or a new sign or something, and they were the ones that sponsored that new field or the new basketball court or something, maybe they would want to advertise, or maybe just if the particular venue, if it's a football thing, maybe you could have a place that sold sports equipment might want to put an ad there, and it could be a revenue generator, or it might be something we might not want to even go down that direction, but I just thought I'd throw it out there.
Thank you.
Thanks, John. Anything else on that? Okay. Joanne, anything you'd like to highlight?
I would like to actually highlight, I'm going to piggyback a little bit on your meeting with the school adjustment counselors. Superintendent Taylor met with them. I met with them that same day too. We didn't know that both were going to be meeting with them. But the idea that we have started having conversations around the wellness needs of the adults in the building and their particular needs as a group. So that has already started in terms of conversation and planning and getting feedback from them. And I do have a scheduled meeting with the head of EAP, or our connection to EAP here locally, to start discussing ways that we can partner and be proactive about wellness within the schools.
Great.
Can I comment on that?
I applaud you for that. As a healthcare provider, as I think that everyone in this room and everyone in the district is in a, you're givers. You're either a giver or a taker, and I feel like if we don't take care of ourselves as providers, it's almost like if you don't have a good foundation, your house crumbles. If we are giving the children the best foundation that we can, but if we're doing it like, not that you can't lean on each other, but leaning here and Band-Aids there and smoke and mirrors over here, we're not showing them the whole way to be as an adult. Like, if that's our goal, to get them to where they need to be. So I applaud you for looking at how we can support our staff and our teachers and educators, and I assume, and not just teachers and educators, just staff across the district.
Staff across
it's
the district,
huge, and I think it's extremely important.
The administrators who are here tonight, and even the ones who are not, and the school adjustment counselors, it's often the ones that are hearing, not
Yes.
only from the families and the students, but from the other adults in the building.
Right.
And so they also need a sense of care and support.
They do.
Because they're carrying it.
They're the
And
first
so I'm excited
line
about this.
that's hearing the tale, or they're the first person that's seeing the child that's coming into school in the same 3-4 outfits week after week, and this for lunch, or maybe not enough for that, or so, and it affects you as a person. So I think that that's extremely important.
And so there'll be more updates as we continue to roll that out. I'm super excited about the paraprofessionals who have stepped forward and taken the Para Pro to get certified as teaching assistants, and furthermore, teaching assistants who want to take it a step further and start looking into getting into school and getting certified eventually as licensed teachers. So we're in the freshman's first steps, wading into those waters, but I'm glad as the HR director to start getting those things going.
Excellent.
Leah.
So just about the Parapro, now they're receiving a stipend after completing that. Now is the stipend just for 1 year, or does that go with them?
It's been negotiated that it's a yearly stipend that they receive.
A yearly stipend, but they only have to take this once?
Yes.
Okay. And is there any talk about follow-ups with Cape Cod Collaborative on the training? I just think about it like the one-shot deal and kind of following up with some more professional development.
The Cape Cod Collaborative have several dates that they can take the Para Pro, and that they can offer the certification program that they have, the class.
Yeah.
And so this year is the initial year where contractually they're eligible for it.
Okay.
And so we're working in the HR office and with payroll to make sure that several times a year I'm reminding them that this is a negotiated benefit for them, where they can take it, and to let me know once they have, so that we can, first of all, organize how many of these are coming in at once and when we're paying them out, but to keep track. Once we have this initial year done and the bulk of folks having taken the test who are interested in that, then we'll probably move into twice a year. But the Cape Cod Collaborative has quite a few supportive initiatives for our teaching assistants, and that's one of them.
Okay, so there's an exam or a certificate program. There's either option.
And they are being reminded so that they know when it's coming. And I mean, I would hope that this year, with all of the buzz and the push and the support, that folks go out and take it and get the certificate, and every year benefit from the stipend. But at whatever point they're ready to take the test and get a qualifying score, they'll start accessing the stipend. They can't access it retroactively.
Okay.
I think it's a step in the direction of helping our paraprofessionals, if they choose, to get this certificate and then to take courses to expand their education and kind of grow our own teachers. I think that's the goal, and this district has never offered that. We've never had negotiated a piece for professional development for TAs to help them better themselves.
I think that's great.
It's part of the investment in our own. And I will say that it came from management. It did not come from the union. And I think we're very proud of that.
Yeah,
We should be.
It's great.
It's awesome. Bill?
A very integral part of every school is substitutes. and I see you're working on a substitute pool. How do you go about that? How are substitutes acquired in the district? And is there enough substitutes to go around?
So I have a few extra gray hairs. Thanks to that. But it's a bit tough, but we're going through a process, and the principals have been amazingly patient and great about it. But we're going through a process of cleaning up a list of subs that we have that it's unclear whether or not they've been subbing regularly or not. So one of the great things about it is that some folks have ignited their passion for the substituting, got their query up to date, their application, and are back subbing for us, and others who have said no, which is great, that's fine too, but it's helped us understand how many do we actually have. And then going back and posting for substitutes. A lot of time retired teachers who move to the area look to stay involved, and we're trying to get them in as well. Share other teachers and employees of the district, spread the word. We had an orientation which wasn't greatly attended, but what it did do is that folks started forwarding it to other folks who just came in, and if you show up without an appointment, it's fine, we'll process you and get you started, because I know the need is great at the school level. And so we're really working at getting the word out, and I think the truth is we don't easily recommend other people or share information about employment in schools unless we really trust the person that we're recommending or we're sharing that information to. So we have gotten some really solid people to walk through the door to say that they've heard about our need for substitutes and they're interested a few days a week.
So that substitute pool is controlled by each particular school? So in the morning, if somebody calls in sick in an elementary, you have a secretary calling and trying to set up? Or how is that done?
Yes.
Just curious.
So each school, we have an online platform, and we have some schools that use it, and then some schools that prefer to call their subs and schedule them appropriately, and they have the freedom to do that. What I have asked them is to make sure that we know everyone who is regularly subbing, so that we can make sure that our accountability factor around making sure that their query, that we have their payroll information, that everything's legitimate.
Okay.
Yes.
As far as subs and sub pay, has there been some research on how much districts are paying for substitutes, and if we are comparable, or if that might be something that could draw some more substitutes by increasing that pay? Sorry.
Do you want to speak to that? I know it recently went up in January.
2 years, and we have raised the number to be competitive with the surrounding districts.
Okay.
Melissa?
Because I have to ask this.
We do need substitute nurses.
I know.
But we're better. But we're better.
Because I know we do. For a few reasons, I know we do.
Okay.
But we are better because we're paying better, and that hopefully will draw. How are we getting the word out that we need nursing substitutes, other than word of mouth?
For new ones.
For new ones to add.
Yeah,
That's
right
the best
now.
we've ever been.
That's
Right now-
amazing.
That is the best we've ever been.
How come nobody told me?
We just hired one today.
Yes.
Don't tell anybody.
Yeah, we have more right now than we have had in a long time.
We're gonna start.
But that said, for some of them though, they are only available like one day or
okay.
1 day a month.
That's okay.
It's still more than we've ever had, and
Right.
that's good. And we'll still
And that's
take
the end of it.
more.
We're going to talk about that. Because that's
Yes,
like saying
it's
the
a high
Q word.
note.
That's like saying the Q word in the hospital. You
Yeah,
just
that's-
don't. Okay. Thank you. That's a good update. Thanks.
Any other questions for Tiwani?
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Patrick, we've got all your information. Any last questions for Patrick?
Just, if anybody wants to have a sort of a deeper conversation about that safety security topic, we can schedule those offline.
We've done a lot of work
Thank you.
around safety and security.
I was sorry to have missed that this evening.
Okay, great, moving on. Report from the chair. So just a couple quick things. We will vote on our delegate for the MASC conference at our next meeting. We're still working on a date for us to try and get together for screening, not yet. So at some point you'll get some dates from me or Sharon if she helps us coordinate that. I have the schedule for upcoming precinct meetings before town meeting. It would be really helpful, I think, if we can try and cover all of them. We have our wonderful cheat sheet, thanks to Patrick, with all the information about things that are going to be on the warrant. And since a lot of us are already town meeting members, and we sit here every other week and have a lot of information, it would be great if we can cover those meetings. They start the 25th and 26th, and the 1st and 2nd of November. And I will be at precincts 1 and 2. So anyway, I'm just gonna send this down. If you don't feel like you have to sign up for something, but if you know you're gonna be there, then great. And the last thing that I had was a request for the calendar committee. I don't know if they're meeting or have anything scheduled, but I'd like the calendar committee to revisit the Columbus Day issue, because as we saw over the weekend, the tribe has abandoned the naming of Columbus Day and moved to Indigenous Peoples Day, and I think it's something we should come back to. We talked about it a couple years ago, and I'd like us to talk about it again.
Kelly, if we could have the minutes reflected, say that you'd like to revisit Columbus Day, because by saying you'd like to revisit the Columbus Day issue, you're kind of defining that it's something negative.
I'd like us to reconsider the naming of Columbus Day on our calendar.
Fair enough, thank you very much.
To be more accurate. Okay, committee member reports.
Before you move on.
Oh yeah, sorry.
I just wanted to check the delegate, you said we were going to vote on the delegate at the next meeting. Does that meet the deadline that we need to get that information?
As long as we have it done before the meeting, right?
Oh, okay, because I had got
we keep getting the notices. They just really want us to do it, but we still have time.
It does say October 20th here.
I thought it was.
I know, and I managed to ask everyone who was going to be there, but we didn't get it posted on our.
And we're okay. We will.
Yeah,
we'll get it voted.
we're all right. I'm sorry, anything else on it? Okay. Committee member reports?
I
Melissa?
can speak to policy. We discussed the goals as we discussed in our retreat. We discussed possibly having an ongoing, or considered having an ongoing discussion whether we were going to have MASC come in. They had offered to do a review of our current policy manual. There is a fee associated with that. There were a few policy subcommittee members that were unable to attend, and we didn't feel confident in having that kind of discussion without them. And there were some revisions that were started to happen with the current attendance and student activities policies.
Thank you. Any other reports from Leah?
The evaluation subcommittee met, and we looked at Nancy's drafts of her goals and developed a timeline for the year, and we'll present that during our next meeting.
Any others? I know that the wellness task force met. As I got to see the notes, and it looked like an incredible meeting, but I wasn't there. But at least I know they met. Any request for agenda items or follow-up information?
Yes, I have a request. One of the things that I know we're all very proud of is that we can disagree without being disagreeable. And with that said, I'd like to say I disagree with the chair's decision to put off a agenda topic that 2 school committee members had brought to attention several meetings ago with regards to the high school fees for parking for students. The thought process, is I feel it's strong to be transparent. To me, it's and I'm making a focus here that it's a school committee discussion, and it's by no means an administration discussion. It was the chair's decision to put it off this topic. I think it's a very straightforward question, and I'm sure there's a straightforward answer, and I don't see a reason why folks who have asked myself and at least one other school committee member this question, why they can't get an answer. So I'd like to put a motion forward that we have an agenda topic that would be inclusive of, but not limited to, what is that revenue used for, and how did that price point come up? And I put that motion forth.
So, although not exactly in proper format, I just want to let everyone know about the process. So, the agenda belongs to all of us. I made that decision that we would wait until the information could be collected about all fees, not just the parking fee. But if the committee feels strongly that you would rather just have the parking thing on the parking fee on our next meeting, you are welcome to vote on that. And if the majority of you agree, then that's what we'll do. Because it's not my agenda, it's all of our agendas. Does that make sense? I just want to make sure we've never done it, so I just want to make sure everybody knows the process. So, John had I'm sorry, you're pointing.
Ahead. Well, I don't want Nancy to be unheard, but then I was going to say something, but if we need to do more
there's a
with
motion. So
Okay.
if there's a second, then we can discuss it after.
I'll second that.
Okay, so Melissa seconds it, so now we can discuss. I just want to make sure everybody knew the process.
Okay.
So,
Go ahead.
may I just speak to that, John? I think that I was part of that conversation with Kelly. I meet with her every Thursday. And my understanding was that we needed to have a fee conversation at a larger level. We're going through the budget process and fees impact the budget, which is why I had suggested, could we wait and have that conversation at a much bigger level when Patrick and I are still digging into fees and looking at what other districts are doing. So if I in any way encouraged you to put it off, I apologize to you, John. I truly believe it's part of a bigger conversation.
And I think when I thought, when I agreed with you, it was not just about the impact on the budget, but also that as a committee, it's our responsibility to look at big picture, not necessarily small picture. So I was looking at it as a bigger issue, fees and overall. Melissa.
So I love the big picture because of policy. We think of things in an umbrella. But I feel fairly strong that this is a conversation that should happen sooner rather than later. I am the other committee person that John is speaking of, that multiple parents have come to me and their children are giving up a lot of money to park at school, and parents are questioning why. Why the fee? Why $85? Why not $70? What, like, so I appreciate, I can see where we are looking at all of the fees and it's a bigger budget conversation, but it's the kids that are really asking this question via their parents through us. Anyway.
Andrew.
Sorry.
Also too.
So I had a question about the fees already, I'm assuming fees already been set and determined for this year, and people who are parking have paid those fees. Is that correct? Because if it's already done, I guess my point is, I like the idea of looking at comprehensively, because it'd be so easy to bring something up to an agenda each time when somebody else comes up with something, a different fee, especially if we set a precedent that if you want to complain about a fee, we can get that onto an agenda, and then we're not looking at it comprehensively. So I guess, is there a reason that we should rush this one forward instead of waiting to collect that last bit of information, get through the budget process?
Well, and I think part of it is that we're going to have that information at our budget workshop on the 23rd, and our next meeting, the first time we could talk about this is the 24th. So I don't know if that's helpful, but Terry.
Yes, I don't think that we should be looking at individual things because, for example, some schools have to pay sports fees. We don't.
Right.
I mean, there is a big picture, and I don't think it's fair to target one thing. I think we should really look at everything that we charge. Some kids have to pay to ride the bus to play their games. Some people have to pay for violin lessons. I mean, there's a big thing, and I think, I would invite parents who complain about those. And I worked at the high school, and kids have been complaining for 1,000 years, but it boils down to like 36 cents a day to park your car. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm doing what I said we shouldn't do, which is attack the individual things. But I just think it's a big picture thing that, because people will stop you in the Stop and Shop and want to, sometimes they're not even 100% serious about the unfairness of just, but I just don't think it's our purview to look at those individual things.
I appreciate that we can't look at each individual fee, but I feel like cars and parking aren't just impacting the way you're getting to school. It's impacting going to your internship, going to work, taking care of your whomever after school. I feel like it's a bigger conversation. That being said, we should wait and see what the 23rd brings and that conversation. But I don't want it to get lost in the entire budget.
And that was going to be my comment, is I wonder if this could help by actually setting a date for it to be on the agenda, so that people who have this concern will know that it's not being just left, that at this future date, this will be discussed.
Right, and I tried to do that at our last meeting, because I did say that what we had decided was to take it as a whole thing, so people wouldn't think that we had just left it. Yeah, Leah.
So I know there's a motion, there was a second, and I'm just thinking that we might not really need to do this, as in the aspect of we're meeting on the 23rd, we're going to learn about the fee, and then, but I think it is important for us to acknowledge that this has been a concern of community members, and that this will be part on our agenda on the 24th. We're meeting on the 24th, right?
Right.
Yes.
The day after. Yeah.
So we'll learn about it on the 23rd, and we'll present it on, it'll be presented on the 24th. Is that right?
I don't want to assume that, I just want to make sure that it's out.
Are you asking about the
reasonable?
history of the fee, and you're asking what the fee is being used for? Is that accurate?
I'm asking a discussion to include but not be limited to what is the revenue used for, and how was the price point determined?
Have any of the parents been referred back to Mary Gann's at the high school?
I
to
spoke
ask
to one
questions about the
particular
fee?
parent, and they did speak with the vice principal, and were not satisfied with the end of that conversation.
Was it then pushed on to the principal?
I encouraged that as well.
Because I think there's
And not-
another piece that's missing here.
Going through
And when
the
there is
chain
an
of
issue,
command, yes.
The issue does need to be referred back to the high school principal. And it needs to go through the chain, I think.
With that said, to address some of the discussions, we do at this point need to vote on it, and I think locking it in, like Andrew said, that would be good, then at least we're locking it in. As far as the notion of just, somebody complains and then you do, I mean, that's, to me, that's part of what our job is. I mean, and really, I don't want to be a bureaucrat that somebody can ask a simple question that we should have a simple answer to, and then they got to wait 2 months to have an answer. That's not what I signed up for. And I think, as we move forward, if we could vote for it, that's great. The discussion can take place on the 23rd. And then we can, do something on the 24th, and at least we know what's going on, that's all. And that can still be part of the bigger discussion point. It might foster the bigger discussion point. So that's all I have to say on that.
So I guess as far as amendments go, there's a motion, there's a second. Can we put an amendment on?
You can do whatever you'd like.
So I'm just thinking, because we are going to be presenting all of these fees, presented about all the fees on the 23rd, that it probably would be good information to also have in our 24th meeting. So it's not just one fee, it's kind of big picture, all of the fees, but including this. So I guess I would like to amend it to include all fees, but make sure, be all fees and include this one in specific, that we definitely address the high school parking permit.
Do you have time to look at all the fees and condense those appropriately for the next meeting?
That's why we put it off, because
I understand that,
Yeah.
but now we're kind of putting it in a position where we're going to vote on it, where it's going to be the next meeting. And my concern would be, if we want to do a whole logistic, is to, do you have time to do that? And how many fees are there? I don't know all the fees. I don't know if any of us know all the fees that are involved with the school district.
This school is very fortunate that we do not charge fees.
Okay, so before we have our discussion, we need a second for the amendment, if anyone wants to second it. And I want to second it, because I think that makes the most sense, because it will deal with so I will second your amendment that we address at our next committee meeting, we look at fees overall, and particularly including the revenue, where the revenue goes and how the cost was set as per John's request.
For the permit fee in the high school.
Okay, so now we have an amendment that we need to, now we can discuss the amendment. Is that what you want to discuss?
Yes.
We're not going to talk about other things, we're going to talk about the amendment.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I just wanna make
Thank
sure
you.
that So, I just don't want it to, maybe that's not what I don't want that to get lost, and I don't want us to completely kill our time Monday with budget focused on this one fee when we've got a large district budget to discuss, and I don't want this to take time away from other things.
Okay. Terry?
But I don't think we got an answer to Mr. Ryder's question. Is there some place that it's all written down, Patrick? I mean, do you know? I mean,
The district doesn't have a lot of fees. It's comparative to other districts, that if you're looking for that kind of information, that's a different project.
But we weren't looking for that, right?
Okay, just making sure.
If you're asking what Falmouth charges for fees, I
And
think
it's
that's a simple
zero
answer.
for most of them.
Yeah, but I think that we do need some comparative information. I don't think we need every fee that every school charges, but
We can try to find
just
something.
some baseline of where we're at.
And I think I have
So
that.
we're talking about apples and apples.
Okay, so there's amendment.
Okay, so any other discussion on the amendment? All right, all in favor of the amendment?
Could somebody repeat the amendment?
That we will, at our next full school committee meeting, look at
Have an
fees
agenda
overall.
item. Have an agenda item.
Agenda item to discuss fees overall, and in particular, where the revenue goes and how the cost was set for parking permits at the high school.
Okay.
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, great. So we have our new motion. Is there any last discussion on the motion? Any new things? All right, so now we're going to vote on the actual, that was just the amendment. Now we have to actually vote on the motion, which is that the exact same thing I just said, that at our next meeting, we're going to have an agenda item looking at all fees and the revenue in particular for the parking fees at the high school. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Whew, unanimous. Wow, that was like a Robert's Rules miracle over there.
Thank God.
All right,
Goodness for town
all right.
meeting, huh?
And John, I appreciate you leading off with agree to be not disagreeable. Whatever, you said it very well, and I agree with you that we can disagree. It's not a big deal. Any other requests for follow-up information or agenda items? Excellent.
No other business?
No business,
So
we're
I'd
done.
like to make a motion that we move into executive session to conduct contract negotiations with non-union personnel. The inspector of the school committee will not return to public session.
Roll call vote. John, will you start us off?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
All right, thank you very much. We're adjourned to executive session. Yeah, Walter, I believe, Megan.
I know it.